Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Lisa's Leftovers. I hope the light is okay. It looks kind of dark to me. I had trouble with the light today getting it right. But anyway, I'm glad you've come back for another episode. And I want to remind you that if anybody wants to come and cook with me, please email me or DM me and let me know, and I'll bring you on and we'll cook something together. But since no one wanted to cook something with me this week, I am cooking by myself, which is fine. So I'm going to make a little surprise for my husband tonight. For dessert, I'm going to make banana cream pie. It's his favorite dessert. True confessions, I hate it, but I actually don't mind making it because it means that I won't eat any of it, because it literally is like my least favorite dessert in the world. So how he likes it is beyond me. But anyway, I don't mind making it. So we have some bananas, and I do have a store-bought graham cracker crust. You can make your own, but honestly, you either have to buy the graham crackers or crust, or it's just, I mean, one or the other. So it's just as easy to buy the crust pre-made. So I do that. And of course I could use boxed pudding mix, but that would be super, super lame. This has been in the cabinet since I think 2002. So instead, I'm going to make my own vanilla pudding, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make your own vanilla pudding. You're not going to believe this. So I'm going to turn on the burner to medium, and I have a nice heavy pot here. And to my pot, I'm going to add 2 cups milk. You can use regular milk. This happens to be lactate. You can use whatever kind of milk you want. And then I'm going to add 2 egg yolks. I'm just going to separate the eggs here. And of course I'm going to save the egg whites because I can make all kinds of things out of them, like the meringues I made last week, or all kinds of things. Frosting, whatever. All right, so I've got my egg yolks, 2 egg yolks and 2 cups of milk over sort of like medium heat, and I'm just gonna whisk them. We were getting like 5 or 6 eggs a day a couple weeks ago from our 16 chickens. Now we're down to like 2 eggs a day. So the winter, shorter days, the molting season kicking in. I have mostly older chickens. We didn't get any new chicks this season. So I won't have anybody laying through the winter, and I don't light my coops. I give them a break. Everyone's molting anyway. They're just in such sad shape. I would never force them to lay eggs. All right, so I've got that whisked together, and I'm just going to add 1/3 cup of brown sugar. You can use regular sugar too. I don't know, I just like the brown sugar. So it's 1/3 cup of brown sugar, and then I'm just gonna add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is gonna help the pudding get thick. So that's that. So we've got 2 cups of milk, 2 egg yolks, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And I'm just gonna whisk that, get all the lumps out. And then I'm just gonna add a pinch of salt just to bring out the sweetness of the sugar. And then the only other thing I'm gonna add is some vanilla bean extract, and that's after my pudding has thickened up. So now basically I'm just whisking and heating, and I'm just gonna cook it for like 5 minutes until it thickens up. And that is, that's pretty much custard pudding. I like to use vanilla bean paste instead of vanilla extract. I don't know if you can see, but it's thicker. So it's almost like molasses, and it has the flecks in it. So it looks like you're using a vanilla bean, but it's not nearly as expensive as vanilla beans. It lasts longer. Vanilla beans tend to dry out if you don't use them. And that's, I mean, this is like 5-minute pudding. I just stand here and whisk it for 5 minutes until it gets thick enough, and then it's done. I mean, that's pudding. Let me just scroll back and see if anybody has questions. So if you have any questions, okay, nobody has ask questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And seriously, I want to cook with you. So DM me. If there's something specific you want to cook, that would be fun. We could both get the ingredients. Or if you just want suggestions on something to cook with ingredients that you have on hand. Either or is fine. So our goal here is to heat the pudding up like to a boil. That will cook the eggs, and it'll also make the cornstarch thicken it. I said about 5 minutes. Look at the clock and see how long it actually takes. This is one of those super simple things that, you know, when we didn't have chickens, I would never have thought about making my own pudding, but now that we have chickens and most of the year we have so many eggs, I don't know what to do with them. You know, I've started making so much more stuff. I make my own mayonnaise, I make my own Caesar salad dressing. In fact, I need to make that, as soon as I finish this, I need to make some Caesar salad dressing. I made that on a previous episode. So I don't know if you can see, because the comments are there, but the pudding is actually, oh, before I burn myself, it's actually starting to bubble and boil. It's not nearly thick enough, but it's definitely getting there. So my goal in this series, and also with my new cookbook that's coming out, in case you haven't heard, I have a cookbook coming out in February of 2022, which seems like forever from now, but it's really only a little over a year. And in cookbook terms, that's like no time. But a part of my cookbook, the reason I wanted to write it was I want to show people like just how easy it is to make so many things that you might never even think about making yourself. And sometimes, well, for us, because we live so far away from a store, it's quicker to make it than to go out and buy it. I mean, if I ran out of mayonnaise, it's easier to just make some instead of, you know, grabbing the keys and going to the store. So I'm making vanilla pudding. This is a good pudding base. I mean, you could make butterscotch, you could make maple. I mean, depending on what, if you want to add a little maple syrup to it instead of sugar. So now it's bubbling away. Can you hear it? I think you can hear it. So it's bubbling like these big bubbles, and I turn the heat down a little bit because I don't want it to burn. And I'm just stirring. Since I'm making a pie, I want it to be a little bit thicker. Like if I were just gonna do regular pudding to eat, I might stop now. It's gonna harden up a little bit, set up a little bit as it cools, obviously. But I do wanna cook it for a good 5 or 6 minutes, just to make sure that it's thick. So when I, you know, cut the pie, it's not just a big old soupy mess. But yeah, I mean, so I like Boston cream pie. It's not the pudding I have a problem with. I just hate bananas. Although I do like bananas Foster, I think, because there's like enough bourbon and brown sugar in there that I don't even notice the bananas. Although I was thinking of making like a peach Foster, so I didn't have to use bananas at all. I'm not a fan of bananas. I'm not a fan of green beans. I think green beans are the most ridiculous vegetable in the world. I'll eat Brussels sprouts, I'll eat broccoli, I'll eat peas, I'll eat asparagus, but green beans, no. I've decided that they're just off the menu like forever. So it's bubbling away, I'm stirring so it doesn't burn. And again, if I were just, you know, if I were making just regular pudding, but you know, if you can use this to fill cupcakes, you can use it as a layer on a cake. You can, if you're making donuts or fritters, you can fill it with it. You can just eat it out of a bowl. You can make cream pies out of it. So it's a really great recipe to just have in your back pocket. So it's been almost 5 minutes. So I would say 5 minutes is about where you want it. You know, you definitely want it like a, you know, consistency like that. Because I don't want a soupy pie. while that is just finishing up, so I'm gonna take my pie crust, as I mentioned, either I buy the graham crackers or I buy the crust as is. You know, I make all my own pie crusts when I'm making them out of, you know, if I'm making a fruit pie or I have to make a flour crust, then of course I'm gonna make my own, but I don't keep graham crackers around, so I would have to buy them. So I just bought the ready-made crust. It makes it so much easier. So now I'm gonna turn the heat off because my pudding is thickened, and I'm just gonna add some of the vanilla bean paste. You can get this at like Williams and Sonoma. You can get it on Amazon. Any kitchen store should have it. And you use it 1 for 1. So if it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla extract, use a teaspoon of paste. I go pretty heavy on the vanilla, just because I like the taste of it. But it is a 1 for 1 for the vanilla extract. So it's a really easy substitution. And that's that. So my pudding's done. And let's see if you can see it. Pudding, vanilla pudding. So if I'm using it in the pie, so I'm just gonna let it cool a little bit and then pour it into the crust over the bananas. If I weren't using it right away, what I would do is take some plastic wrap. Well, okay, first of all, sorry, I missed a step. So, got a little ahead of myself there. So my pudding is done. So now what I wanna do is put it through a strainer into a bowl, just in case there are any lumps or clumps in it or anything. It just makes a smoother custard. Whoops. Definitely gonna end up burning myself on one of these shows. Yikes. All right, so, and then too, if you did happen to scorch a little bit of the bottom of it, you don't end up with that in your pudding. So I just strain that through. Press it through. If you've been whisking or stirring the whole time, you shouldn't have any lumps in it, but I just do like to strain it through anyway, just in case, because the egg cooks, it can get lumpy. So that's that. That's gonna be just about enough for a pie. It looks beautiful, and I'm just gonna let that cool a bit. So if I weren't using it right now for a pie, what I would do is put plastic wrap right over the surface and press it over the surface, and then put it in the refrigerator to cool. So that way you don't get like the filmy film on top of it, but I'm gonna put it in the pie, so I'm not gonna worry about that. So then I'm just gonna slice up my bananas, lay them in the crust, pour the pudding over it, and then I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator. And it's a little after 3 o'clock now, so in about 3 hours, by 6 o'clock, it should be chilled enough that I can take it out and make some whipped cream for the top of it. Again, you know, just so easy to make whipped cream. You just keep heavy cream on hand and whip that up with some sugar and some vanilla, and you've got whipped cream. Put that over the top, and we'll have banana cream pie for dinner. So you can use your store-bought pudding, but as you saw, it's super easy just to make your own vanilla pudding. And again, for anybody who tuned in late, it was 2 cups of milk, 2 egg yolks, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and vanilla extract. And that was it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lisa's Leftovers. These weren't really leftovers, except I did have the pie crust in the fridge. In the pantry. So I really just had to get the bananas, everything else we had on hand. So I hope you'll try making your own pudding. See you next time, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.